I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you.
Now, as we speak, New Yorkers are voting. The final day of voting will be on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, as I say, as we speak. And the race has been a fascinating one because of the rise of the young candidate Zohran Mamdani, who is a self-declared democratic socialist, extremely capable communicator and politician, very charismatic, strong message. And as we speak, he's gone from being somebody that got dismissed by the mainstream to, as of now, Monday, June 23rd, the latest polling shows that he may be leading Andrew Cuomo, the insider and odds-on favorite, for this election, according to the media. Now, it's striking for a number of reasons. You can't really tell about polling under the best circumstances, and New York City has what they call ranked choice voting, which most of our listeners will know. So, all of it is to be cautioned that way. But the fact that he's reached this point where within the first choice, in the first choice voting category of the ranked choice, Cuomo and Mamdani are essentially tied, 35% for Cuomo to 32% for Mandami, which is in the margin of error. But when you calculate it all the way through to the final round, I won't go into how ranked choice voting works, but with the six other candidates eliminated, according to this One Emerson College poll, Mandami gets 52% to Cuomo's 48%. I got big caution on that, but it certainly is something to see that he's even at this point, whatever the margins of error turn out to be. It's quite an impressive accomplishment, isn't it?
It's incredible. And I think what he has done has energized not just New Yorkers who are hoping for a new mayor, but people around the country who've been waiting for an alternative to the right-wing Republican, neo-Nazi fascists, and the insider Democratic Party weak-kneed establishment old guard, the dinosaurs, who basically promise everything and deliver nothing. And what's happened is our electoral system has resulted in people just getting more and more disengaged. And here you have precisely the kind of candidate that can get people excited about democracy. Zohran Mamdani is quite remarkable. He's not a nobody, nowhere person. He's in the state assembly, so he has political experience, and he is someone who has a clear message. So what I have been looking at when I've been seeing his candidacy is that he's telling a story. And, I study narrative shifting, and he's telling a story that is so powerfully resonant while he is leaning into his roots. So, funny story, Richard. I know Zohran Mamdani. I first heard about him when I saw a video of him talking about his mother. His mother, Meera Nair, is a very, very well-respected Indian filmmaker. I've seen her films. I saw them in the early 2000s. Her first film, Salam Bombay, was one of the most powerful social films done in India about poverty-stricken Indian children. She had another breakout hit with Mississippi Masala, which was this beautiful love story between an Indian American and a Black American, played by none other than Denzel Washington. It was this indie hit that really raised questions of gender and feminism and race. And so Meera Nair is someone who carries huge weight among South Asians. And here's her son who says, he doesn't just say I'm Zohran Mamdani. He says, I'm Zohran Kwame Mamdani. He tells us his middle name. And he was born in Uganda, because she married a Ugandan Indian. And he talks about how he was named after the Ghanaian leader at the time. And so he leans into his identity without worrying about it being something that's going to be a liability, while emphasizing social justice issues, particularly economic justice issues. So you know that Zohran Mamdani is a person of color. He's not shying away from that. He talks about race, racial issues, racial identity, and his goal is economic justice, rent control, and healthcare. It's the dream candidate. Like if I could craft a dream candidate to energize people, I couldn't come up with someone as good as Zohran Mamdani. I just saw a rap video that he had made when he was a young student about a grandmother played by Madhur Jaffrey, who's another Indian royalty. She's like India's Julia Childs. This incredible, she used to be like a Miss India, then she became this famous TV cook, and she's just also kind of a cool social justice personality. And he did this amazing, like very New York rap video. I mean, he's someone who's joyful. He brings joy and energy to work. And he's completely like challenged the establishment. They don't know what to do with him. And I'm here for it. No matter how this election goes, I'm so excited.
Well, I'm here for it too. And a couple things to add. One is I was excited about him before I learned his mother was Mira Nair, who is a great filmmaker indeed. And we left out Monsoon Wedding.
Monsoon Wedding, yes.
The Reluctant Fundamentalist, which was made from a terrific short novel. And if you haven't seen them, and this is a recommendation to you and the audience as well, on the Criterion channel, which is one of the few premium channels worth paying for, her documentaries from early in her career in India are incredible. Yeah. She has some terrific ones about sex workers called India Cabaret, and another one, several other. I would check them out if you can, if you have the Criterion channel. So she's his father, Mahmood Mamdani, is very highly respected scholar, but we don't believe, we don't go by pedigree, but he has it. He's also upfront about being Muslim and very emotional about that, and about being Indian. I saw him give a speech, I believe it was in Hindi. He
has a campaign ad entirely in Hindi.
And of course, I didn't understand a word, but I thought, good for him. Yeah.
I mean, I've watched that multiple times because it's fantastic. He explains what ranked choice voting is to South Asian American voters in New York City, because it can be if you've never done it, it can be complicated. He's trying to engage voters who traditionally, may not show up, and he's like did it using like clips from Bollywood films entirely in Hindi. And by the way, I was very impressed by his Hindi accent, which is not easy to get right if you're not born in India. I was like, this guy gets the accent, so he has it down. He worked on it. He's showing us that he is so authentic. And for me, this is the example that we need. We need 1 million Mamdanis around the country running for office at every level, from school board to Congress, and and mayor, governor, all of it, and that's the inspirational effect.
And in some senses, you could say he's an exceptional figure, right? I mean, he's very unusually gifted as a communicator and so on. But in another way, you're right. I think he can be a model and an inspiration to others. And I love what you said earlier about joy, because to me, and also what you said about narrative, because I've said for a long time, I know you study narrative, and it's one of the things we've talked about. But if the Democrats don't offer a narrative and the Republicans offer a narrative, a bad narrative beats no narrative, right? But a good narrative can beat a bad narrative. And the fact that he does, that was Bernie's success, it's the millionaires and billionaires. Okay, people get it. But the joyfulness that he communicates, the power in it to me to be both a self-described democratic socialist and joyful is that it's unapologetic. It's creating a world you want to be part of. That was part of what people were drawn to about John F. Kennedy and the Beatles, and you could name a few popular figures over time, is that they create a world that you'd like to share in. And I think he does that a little bit.
Exactly. And the reason why he is so effective is because he is articulating something very concrete, right? Like you can look at a figure like Barack Obama, who came at a time when the country was desperate for something different from George W. Bush. But Barack Obama's story was hope and change, which is a very vague thing. Now, he did articulate policies, but they were very wonkish. They were a high level. You had to really want to get into the technical aspects of it. And for policy nerds, he was a dream candidate. But for voters, he was only a dream candidate because he offered hope and change, and then became a disappointment because he delivered in the end mostly what the Democratic Party establishment wanted. What's really interesting about Mamdani is that he's calling himself a democratic socialist at a time when the right is vilifying socialism and Democrats are afraid of being called socialists, while the whole country is saying, hang on, we want an economy that works for us and not billionaires. And of course, his biggest challenge is going to be the same thing that Bernie Sanders faced when he ran against Hillary Clinton, when he ran against Joe Biden, which is, do we want to elect somebody in the primary who's not going to be a viable candidate in the general election? Suddenly, you're seeing this already. The more successful Mamdani gets, the more you have the establishment not actually taking on his policies, but taking on, if we elect him, is he going to be elected? If we elect him, can he be elected? These circular arguments.
Because this is a primary this week. That's why. Yeah. So there, all of a sudden, the reporting has been, well, whoever wins the Democratic primary is going to be the next mayor. And all of a sudden, as Zoran gets up, accelerates as well, gee, can he really do it? I mean, it brings to mind the Buffalo, New York mayoral race that India Walton, a left candidate, won handily, and then the incumbent Democratic Party mayor, with backing from Democratic and Republican big money sources, ran against her in the general and won. So it almost seems as if they're ready for that. And by the way, I can't resist mentioning that, sort of putting the nail in the coffin of the possibility of spiritual growth among Democrats. Bill Clinton endorsed Andrew Cuomo yesterday.
Yes,
they're all lining up to support the guy that got drummed out of their party as a serial sexual abuser who mismanaged COVID after becoming a TV star over COVID, causing hundreds of needless deaths in nursing homes, and then suppressed that information and kept it from the public. Resigned to disgrace. Now he's the guy. That's how afraid they are of Mandami, I guess.
Yes, and also he's someone who has Trump backers egging him on. He is someone who has far too much overlap with Trump supporters, something that Zohran Mamdani talks about and has debated him with. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like the jokes keep writing themselves. Bill Clinton, it would have been shocking to me if he hadn't endorsed Andrew Cuomo. The old guard of the Democratic Party continues to prove to us why their party continues to give us the data on the understanding that we need about why the party keeps failing, right? People are like, how could we have elected Trump? Because the Democratic Party. Not because of who necessarily Trump is. Yes, a big part of that is Trump just being Trump, but because of the failures of the Democratic Party. And the Democrats keep showing us over and over again because they have this internal value system that relies on dinosaurs who are basically saying seniority is the most important thing in the party, not ideals. Wait your turn. You haven't paid your dues. And he's next in line. This is who deserves it. And that's, that was the Biden thing. Next in line. There's no next in line. We're talking about a country that's on the knife's edge of full-blown fascism. And what we need are people who can actually like save us from full-blown fascism, not these weak-kneed liberals who are, also pro-Wall Streeters. All the critiques that Trump supporters have of the Democratic Party, sadly, are valid critiques.
Right.
It's like, how can those of us who say, oh my God, why do we have Republicans in power, should absolutely not fall into the trap of saying, when we have such great alternatives, because those alternatives aren't great. Every critique that Trump supporters have of the Democrats are truthful, valid critiques. I mean, and then there's some other exaggerations, which you can set aside all the lies and exaggerations, and there's still plenty there that's real that they're calling them out on. Now, that's not to say that the Republican candidates are great, because of course there's huge double standards. They're just as bad, if not worse, than the Democrats. But the valid critiques of the Democrats stand. So it doesn't matter to me if Zohran Mamdani wins or loses the primary. If he wins, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses the general election, because this is the beginning of a wave that needs to happen. It's sort of the end of the beginning, crest of the wave, because we've had a slow wave, as you pointed out, India Walton, right? We've had people like that who've been making themselves available. And if he does win the primary and he does go on to win the general election, what I want to also point out is that he should be held to the exact same standards that we hold all politicians to. Do not say you're with him. Say you're voting for him because he's promising to deliver things that other people aren't, that you want. As soon as he's in office, hold him accountable and make sure he delivers those promises. And if he doesn't, vote him out and replace him with someone else. Let's not get carried away with celebrity politics, no matter how charismatic they are, and he is one of the most charismatic.
I'm so glad you said that, because the cult of personality is always a temptation in politics, and people get lured into it. So you have Zohran as this new political figure, and whatever happens in the race, he's early in his career. He's quite young. He can go on and do interesting things. You have the messaging, the narrative, which you've been talking about. And what takeaway? I mean, whatever happens next, he's been a spectacular success, I think, in not only changing the arc of the New York City race, but in opening up a sense of possibility that was, I think, deliberately shut down by the Democratic Party establishment after Bernie. They're just like, no, that doesn't work. We don't do that. I think he's revived that with this race. But okay, if I'm, or someone else, better, ideally better, younger, and a woman or a person of color, but whoever. If someone's a candidate or thinking about running in a race in some other part of the country, the Midwest or Washington State or wherever, what lessons should I take from the campaign of Zohran Mamdani?
It's similar to the lesson that we learned from AOC's rise to power, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also in New York. What she did, which was very effective, and she's setting aside what she's done since she's been elected,
right.
But what she did to get elected, which was to beat a Democratic incumbent who was very well established. I can't remember the candidate that she now ousted.
Joe Crowley.
Thank you, Josh Crowley. Very, very prominent, a shoo-in, one of those, like, it's my turn now. What she did and what Mamdani is doing is mobilizing and deploying an enormous army of grassroots volunteers, door to door. He has mobilized something like 40,000 volunteers, which is like off, right? So not only are these people going to show up to vote for him, they're going to be his ambassadors. And so talk about grassroots campaigning. You can beat money, so far at least, if you have enough people doing the work for you, right? Our electoral system is so tilted towards money and towards billionaire funding that you can often, if your opponent doesn't have enough people on the ground, you can just wash them with money and the ads. But if your opponent can mobilize people, there's almost no amount of money that you can throw at a campaign. We've seen billionaires get defeated before who've wasted a huge amount of their own money because their opponent was mobilizing people. So this is a huge takeaway. And also, don't back down from, when someone attacks you for your racial identity, for your religious identity, for your gender identity, for your sexual orientation, don't apologize and back down from it. Lean into it and say, don't vote for me in spite of me being a Muslim. Vote for me because I'm a Muslim. Don't we want more like that's another lesson. People are like, enough with the trying to erase our identities. We are a gloriously multicultural country, and no amount of whitewashing is going to change that. And it's going to be bad for us. So those are my two takeaways. Mobilize people to be your grassroots army, and don't cave into, which is what Democrats love to do. When they get attacked for their identity, they back off. No. Lean into it. Make that central. Then the more they attack you for it, the more you can make it central. And voters recognize that. They recognize the courage it takes to do that. They want to go for someone who's believes in themselves and doesn't try to shape themselves into something they think voters want, right? That was Hillary Clinton's downfall. That was Kamala Harris's downfall. They tried to shape themselves into politicians that they thought voters would like, and saw through that. So yeah, I love those two things about him, and I hope other candidates take that away from it as well.
And I can't resist adding one other observation from I take it from the noted political scientist Taylor Swift, who said, shake it off. When you get attacked for being too left or too socialist or too Muslim or too whatever, just, you got to be kidding me. This ability to just
apologize for that ever.
Yeah. So haters got to hate. That's my
okay. So you just keep doing what you do. Exactly.
Right.
We depend on your support here at the 0 Hour, so please give whatever you can at any of the links you see on your screen. Thanks so much.